It was through some of the darkest times of my life when spirit began to make itself known to me through signs and clues from the other side. It helped me understand that I was not alone, that I was connected, and there was more to life than just this experience. I call those magic moments. I'm Christy Simon Selly, and I'll be your host for this podcast, Unreasonable Magic, where I will share some of the most compelling stories that cannot be explained away through logic from my work as a psychic medium, an astrologer, and a human design consultant, working with clients in my own life. Please join me for the magic. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Unreasonable Magic. This is episode 5, and I am Christy Simon Selly, your host, who is so happy to have you here with all of us. I have a guest today who I will introduce. Today, we're going to share one of the most compelling stories I have ever experienced in my work with spirit, especially the way that it presented itself to me. We heard earlier in the season from Diane, who had an interesting presentation, but this one's even wilder. And of course, as I do, there was a whole lot of second guessing for me and, judgment, all those things. But this is fun. We're also going to talk about alternative healing methods and some interests that Tricia and I share. So without any further ado, I will introduce you, Tricia. Tricia, thank you for being here. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, Christy. Thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun to talk about all of this stuff. For me, I have always been a seeker of ease for my body to ward off all sorts of dis-ease. I'm interested in learning and participating in all sorts of wellness modalities. For 30 years, I've been eating organic and studying sustainable and regenerative farming and practices and soil and making sure that I give the best for myself and my family and making other people aware, of slight differences that you could make that may be a little bit better for, their health and wellness. Then as time progressed, and online courses became the thing,
Oh, yeah.
I started studying, well, that's where I got my yoga teacher training. I got
Yeah.
it online, which wasn't ideal, but it was during COVID and there was, not a lot, not a lot of choices out
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
So then yoga, and then I discovered that there were functional nutrition courses I could take online. So I did that and got a certificate, which led me to study Ayurveda. I just recently graduated with my Ayurvedic health advisor training course. That led
Well,
me to
congratulations, because I know
well,
that was a big lift
thank
for
you. Yeah,
you.
that was a lot, very interesting, all about the physicality of health and wellness and how nature is vibed in there,
Yeah.
uh, which leads to energy work and herbalism, which I'm studying now, uh, which is fascinating how everything just goes together. And then,
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
during the middle of all that, I took your fabulous human design course, which was very eye opening. And I dip into that a little bit. And so when you had your podcast on human design, and I was listening, and at one point you had said, okay, for all of you, that haven't done it, you can go to this website, or if you have your human design chart, go get it. And so I paused and I ran and I got my folder that you gave me and I came back and you started talking about this stuff. And I was just amazed at how it all relates back to Ayurveda and herbalism
Mhm.
and how we are, once you open your heart, that's what it's all about, right? Opening your heart and letting all of the things that may have gotten away from us because of the world we live in.
Yeah.
So when you open your heart and you start listening and you start paying attention, you see that everything's related.
Yeah.
We all have the same makeup. We all
Yeah.
have these elements in our body, and we
Yeah.
all, and the directions all have, reciprocity with the elements and the planets. And it's how we're all made up, humans, plants, animals,
Yeah.
all of this great stuff in nature. Um,
Can
it
I interrupt real quick just for
Oh,
our
yeah.
listeners? So Trisha and I were talking before we started to record about how well, first, let me just say, for sake of argument, because I want to play this for everybody that comes on the show, Trisha has a Cancer rising, same as I do. She has a Gemini moon, same as I do, and she has a Virgo sun, where I have an Aries sun. And so we were just talking about that resonance. But when you have a Cancer rising, the moon becomes your chart ruler. Okay, and so the moon becomes the most important planet. Basically, we call it like the VIP. Um, in Gemini, in the 12th house. And the 12th house is a I don't wanna say it's a tough place to have the moon. I think it definitely connects us to these, like, alternative pursuits, these spiritual pursuits, but thinking about the moon is, like, the most sensitive entity that you can have kinda ruling your chart, so it makes the Cancer rising profoundly sensitive, but the moon has everything to do with our body, and in the 12th house, it can make things a little bit, like, hard to access or to tap into, and so I think that that's interesting that we've both been sort of experiencing a life full of sensitivities and a need to really find balance for it, so I just think it's super compelling that, and it's funny because I have done Trisha's human design chart, but I never put her astrology chart. And I just this morning was like, holy crap, like we have all this stuff that's the same. And so I just think it's really compelling that our 12th house Gemini moon wants to understand everything there is about, and in human design, we would even then go ahead one step further, not to continue to just ramble, but the Gemini placement that we both have our moon in is in gate 16, which is a gate around skills and understanding and learning. So it's not so much about how many skills can I gather, but it's like how much can I learn and understand. And so we both have that. And in human design, the moon is what drives us. And so I think it's fascinating that we both. I can't tell you how many classes I've taken on different topics, and there's so much resonance there. So I just want to say that. So I think it's really cool that we have that in common and that we kind of have come back to the same conclusions that no matter how you peel the onion about health and balance and how does this all work, we come back to the same key concepts of elements and this balance and imbalance. I think no matter what I've studied or how it's landed, and I know you've had the same experience.
It's literally phenomenal,
Yeah.
right? How
Yeah.
you look at your energy centers in human design and how I was able to correlate that to the doshas and
Yeah.
Ayurveda, and they're exactly the same. Like
It's so
it all just blends right together.
Can you just share with our listeners who might not be familiar with Ayurveda what basically Ayurveda is?
Sure, Ayurveda, it's the oldest written medical system that we know of, um, over 5,000 years old. Of course, civilization began over in Africa. I do not study archaeology or any of that, but
Mhm,
from what I've learned, that's where the first signs of civilization were, is,
mhm.
what we've studied. And when these people, of course, they had medical systems and they were doing, all sorts of different things to heal themselves, but they didn't write it down. It was
Yeah,
more oral. And then
yeah,
when they started to migrate over to their different areas, over there in what we now consider India is where they started documenting everything.
mhm.
So that's where Ayurveda comes in. And it's just all about how you are to get back to your natural self.
Okay,
Ayurveda takes your what they call your Prakruti, which is where the proportions of your elements came into being at conception.
okay.
Now, human design, I think, does it at birth, right?
We do
For
it at
88
birth and then
days,
about 90 days before. So that's
90 days
the
before.
conscious part, the design side would line up with
Mhm,
like your known astrology chart and then your
mhm.
90-day before would be your I just said that backwards. Your personality chart is what is known and then the design chart is the what we kind of don't see. It's the underneath part. That's from about 90 days before birth, which comprises both sets of information points, which then tell me how you because I we have not talked about this until today, but you were talking about the places where you have balance and imbalance
Mhm.
line up with what's defined and undefined in your human design chart.
Yes. So in my human design chart, would you call them the lower energy centers, like my
I mean, you could like
sacral?
the root, the sacral, which line up with
Mhm.
the energy centers in the body. So yeah, the
Right.
ones on the
So
bottom of
the
the chart.
the
Yeah.
lower ones, which in Ayurveda holds the elements where I have my greatest proportions. So earth and water and fire, with the pitta dosha and the kapha dosha, is where it seems like I would call it grounded in my human design chart. And then where I often have imbalances, um, were all the centers that were open in my human design
Yeah.
chart. And I was just like, "What is going on here?" When I started looking at it all, and that's when I emailed you and I just said, "This is so fascinating." I just love that you share all that because I went down a rabbit hole for at least 20 hours, looking into all this stuff and checking out how on the human design chart, how those planets on the sides, what those mean. I got into
Mhm.
that a little bit and
Yeah.
just unbelievable. And if there's anyone out there that has not had a class with you on human design, I couldn't recommend it more
Oh,
because
thank
it's just fascinating and you're such an excellent teacher.
It is a really compelling system, and it's so funny because human design's only been around since, like, the 1980s. Ayurveda's been
Mhm.
around since forever, so it's like, was this a recycle? But it's not because there's no mention of any of the doshas or any of that sort of stuff that gets involved here. So I just, I this is always so curious to me. As I've said before, I have a master's in public health. I spent years working in clinical settings and research around cancer prevention and health equity and all that, which are all things I love a lot. So I do believe firmly in science, but I feel like there's so much that's missing from these traditional understandings that we have poo-pooed because I don't know how many, papers have been done on Ayurveda and that so it's like just because we don't have the data doesn't mean that it doesn't work. And so yeah, and this is not anything I'm an expert in. I would say certainly more the energy work and the elements and how that all plays in definitely is something I have more scope on. How it looks in a chart, I mean, for me, I always look at people's elements as one of the key things. If I'm looking even just at the astrology chart, I'll see where they may have a dominance or a lack of energy. You have like an impressive stellium in Virgo, which for those who don't know, stellium just means a lot of planets in the same sign, and you have 5 planets, including your sun, and in in that, in Virgo, so that's, like, an impressive amount of earth energy that you have in your chart. I have none. I have 0, so I do in my unconscious chart, but, yeah, so I'm opposite in that way, but so much the same. So I just think I always look at that. So I would look at this and be like, "You're profoundly grounded, and yet you found healing in things like yoga, very grounding, things like herbalism and food, very much about the earth and energy that way." So I just think it's really compelling that leaning into what's dominant for you has really helped you kind of thrive, I would say.
Mhm. What's
Yeah.
fascinating about evolutionary herbalism is it brings all of that. It brings the science and the spirituality and the medicinal properties of herbs and the elements. And what they say is lacking in our Western world is that our hearts have been closed. We
Uh,
don't, your body has three brains: your gut brain, your heart brain, and your actual organ, the brain.
mhm.
And because of the way we live in 2026, our hearts are often closed to what else is out there.
Yeah.
And if we just and it takes work, it takes so much work
Yeah.
and to practice all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, once you start doing it, it is like a whole other part of the world is opened up to you,
Yeah.
and the earth starts to come back and you can start to feel what you're supposed to feel in your heart.
Yeah.
So I think, why you were saying you don't, know how we got, I think that's just because people's hearts were closed up, you know?
Which is so resonant because at the heart of human design, it's really about unpacking all the layers of hurt and judgment and shame that have been thrown at us to get back to our true essence, which is
Mhm.
basically the same thing as what you're saying. So it's like
Right.
this system, even though it's like, yes, I do this and this one gate makes me this way and my energy center, blah, blah, blah. At the core of it, the intention of it is to unpack all the shoulds and woulds and whatevers and the judgment and get back to who we were as like a 4-year-old running around chasing butterflies and thinking the world is great. That's the
Right.
goal, is to kind of
Right.
unpack the experience to get back to innocence. I think Bono said something about that at a concert. I don't remember the
I'm
words,
sure.
but it'll come to me,
Yeah.
but, it's really kinda cool. It's great, and so I love that all the systems all point to the same place, and a lot of it has to do with just being your most authentic self and
Right.
aligning with what feels right to you versus what the world thinks we should be doing.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah, and trying to fit, and even this morning I was getting ready for our talk and I'm like, man, it's hard living in this body sometimes. But I'm like, just because I live in a world that's not really built for me. And I understand that. And so, but it's hard to carve out what is good for you in a space that is built for, others kind of a thing. And I think this is where understanding your true essence really kind of comes in.
Yes,
And I think
and
they can
it's a
resonate with that.
beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing, and you meet beautiful people
Yeah.
who share the same, interests,
Uh
and
huh.
it's fascinating.
Yeah. Which
Yes, and
takes us to sort of how we
yeah.
met. I mean, we met kind of organically at the yoga studio.
Mhm.
Over the course of time, and I
Mhm.
I feel like so that's been lovely to get to know you in that way, and Trisha, if just has this lovely presence about her. She's just
Oh my
quietly
goodness, Christy.
unassuming, loves to put herself in the back of the room in the corner, like, "Don't bother me, run in, run out," like, Trisha just has this really lovely presence about her, and I've always enjoyed our interactions. But this this
Me
this
too.
this one goes back a few years, as I recall.
Yes.
We were doing so Beth, who owns Village Yoga, and myself, I think Anna, my EF Hutton friend, was there. Maybe another woman. We were doing our message circle that we haven't done that as a group in a long time. And so Beth or Anna, if you're listening, we should really do that
Mhm.
because it's so much more fun to do it as a group. I offer group messages every month, but when we're all doing it and the energy is so different, I think it's great. So I remember getting up to do a message, and generally speaking, when I'm in a circle setting like that, I will just focus in on a person and then allow the message to come to me. Now, I don't just pick a person at random. I pick a person based on like a sensation, or maybe I feel a little sparkle over your head, or maybe I just feel pulled in that general direction magnetically. But with you in this message, I just felt the person who was coming to talk to me. And so I got up to just offer that message, which is so much harder to do because you don't know where it's going to land and you don't know if anyone's going to take it. But I could feel this presence so powerfully. I'm going to back up though, because I forgot the most important part of this story for me anyway, the part where I judge myself and criticize myself, because that's part of what I do well, is that afternoon, the same day, I had a client in my office, also at the yoga studio, and was doing a reading for her. It was going great. All the things were lining up and it was fine. And then at the end, I had what I felt like a male presence come in for me. He stood behind me though, and they don't always stand behind me. I know some mediums, that's where they always stand. This person stood behind me. Generally for me, they stand next to the sitter or they'll stand in front of me. I generally can see them. And I remember kind of was just about to wrap up with that girl, and I had this gentleman energy come in, and I felt like I couldn't decide if he was like a brother or a boyfriend, or I couldn't decide. He had this kind of like very excited energy, glad to be connecting and sharing. And he shared some details about how he passed, and none of it made sense to her. And he made me feel like he was alone when he passed. He made my lips tingle, which was kind of a weird thing. And then and she could not place him, and she was trying to figure it out. And I'm like, well, this is a great note to go out on. Here we've had this great session, and now I'm like, I don't, you don't know who this guy is. And anyway, so we kind of chalked it up to I don't know. I always say if we don't know the person, we're not going to belabor it, but we let it go. So that was in the afternoon. So then I spend my whole day like, wow, who was that guy? Why did I ruin that? Where did that come from? None of this makes sense. But then I get up that night at the message circle to take my turn, and I get this very dominant, again, energy. I'm not at this point connecting the two, but this gentleman tells me some things. He's there to, you know, to share a message with someone. And I remember he was wearing a bright yellow shirt. I could tell he worked in some sort of trade or something with his hands. And I remember describing him for my Buffalo Bills fans as sort of a middle-aged Dawson Knox, who, if you don't know who Dawson Knox is, he's a tight end on the Buffalo Bills. He's very handsome, dark curly hair, very Irishy looking with the like freckles and complexion and stuff. And just, I'm like, I don't know, but he's very excited to be here. And I think you almost immediately grabbed that message, if I recall. You
See,
knew who.
I'm gonna stop you right. That's where that's where our stories differ a little. Because
Okay.
to me, it felt like hours. It felt like I was
Okay.
sitting there for hours because I I was terrified because I was so scared, and I don't know of what. Have no idea because it was a beautiful night, and you ladies are so lovely and have the great energy about all of you. So I don't know what I was so afraid of. But
Yeah.
honestly, to me, it felt like a long time. So I think that that's funny.
Like, a long time that it was, like, to land the plane, or a long time that you were like, "How long are we gonna sit here? What is happening?"
A lot like I was like, should I say something? Should I not say something? I think it's Tim. I don't know. What am I doing? If I don't say something right now, my opportunity is going to pass. What should I do? Like all of that was
Yeah.
going through my mind. And you kept saying more stuff and describing him. And I was just kind of like, holy moly, I better say something.
So, and again, for me, now I'm offering this message kind of carte blanche. I don't have an owner for this one. So, um I'm like, "Somebody please say that you know this this guy." Anyway, yeah, so you did grab him. It seemed to me faster than it seemed to you, but he did let me know, how excited he was to connect with you, encouraged you to have an open mind, but he kept pointing at this yellow shirt, and I was like, "What is up with this?" You knew who he was, and I remember Beth had gotten up to sort of add some context that I had not picked up on, which
Wild.
was
Yes.
great, yeah. She was like, "I got this, like, I need to fill in the blanks a little bit," and so this was just really powerful. You were, like, you were moved to tears. I think your sister was with you, and she could tell what
Yes.
was happening for you, and I know Tim was a really good friend of yours. So at no point did you say his name, did you say anything? You just said
No.
you knew who he was, and I said, "Okay, great," and
Mhm.
so that's enough for me. We let it go, and that was that, and then that was a Saturday night. Sunday morning, I was teaching yoga. You came into the
Yep.
studio, and you told me, "Oh my gosh, you won't believe this." You won't believe this, because I kept talking about that he was gonna give you something, but he kept pointing at the yellow shirt, and you came in and said, "My husband went to get the newspaper this morning, and when he came back, he had a big bunch of yellow sunflowers for me, and is this something your husband would normally do?"
Not just no, he just said that they were speaking to him.
Right.
I love sunflowers and a little I don't know if I ever told you this, but, back in the day when, my friends and I would go out, um, to a local establishment, and sometimes before we would go somewhere to pregame, as the kids call it, right?
Yes, yes.
So during some of our pre-gaming, we would go to this beautiful field of sunflowers that
Mm.
was here in the area, and we would pick the sunflowers, and we would put them on Tim's car. We would put them
Oh.
all over his car so that when he woke up in the morning, his whole car was covered in sunflowers. So that's so wild. Like, the whole thing is just so
So, and that
wild.
piece I didn't even know. So not only he's
Mhm,
pointing at this yellow shirt, I'm like,
mhm,
is he just really concerned about safety and wanting to be visible or what? And then it's the sunflowers, which I didn't even know that till I think like today.
mhm,
So, and then your husband brings you home sunflowers. And I
mhm.
I remember being like, wow. So, as I do, I go home and I have to write this down. I shared it on my blog. I didn't have Substack back then, so I shared it on my blog. I asked your permission. Are you okay if I share this? You said sure, and I did. I wrote a little story about it from my perspective on the blog. But here's where it gets even better, children. So so the following day, and I don't know, we must have been on break or something. I'm like, why was there so much yoga? Anyway, I the next day I'm teaching yoga again, and you come in. You're like, oh my goodness, I really loved what you wrote. Thank you for putting that together. And I said, it's so funny when you pulled your phone out to show me the picture of the sunflowers. I swore you were going to show me a picture of your friend. And you were like, "Oh, well, I could. Would you like to see his picture?" And I'm like, I don't feel like I need to see him." I'm like, "I don't know. Chubby middle-aged Dawson Knox seems to work for me. He's a very affable guy, friendly, all the things." And you pull your phone out to show me his picture. And then this is as I describe it. This is if anyone is old enough to remember Wayne's World when they have a dream sequence and everything spins and gets blurry. You show me this picture and I know him. I know Tim. And your friend is a friend of my friend's stepbrother. Okay. So at this point, I literally was about to fall over dead. I was like, okay, what? Like, so this is the same guy that came in the afternoon that day, kind of preempted the other session because he knew he would see you that night, okay? So
Mhm.
I'm laying this out because this week and next week we're going to talk to people who had spirit waiting for them, kind of jump in sessions, and this is one of my favorite things because and I'm just saying that spirit people don't keep doing it because it's distracting, but um he was so excited to be able to talk to you. He showed up to the earlier session. And I know this because he died from an allergic reaction, as I recall, to his medication. So the
Yes.
tingly lips were like,
Mhm.
that's the anaphylaxis, right? I live with many allergies, so I know what tingly lips mean for the most part. Either playing a trombone or a trumpet, or you're going to have an allergy thing. So this was the guy that stood behind me that the girl couldn't place because he wasn't her person. He was your person. He was just early. And he stood behind me so I wouldn't see him full on to be like, oh, hey, I think I know you. Um, and I don't know what to say about that because there's so much there that's just utterly magic. And so if I have ever been skeptical, if I've ever wondered, how true or real, am I making all this crap? I'm not. I couldn't possibly dream this up. I didn't even know you knew him because we had a
Right.
relationship based on the yoga studio. So,
It was all so incredible.
yeah.
It took me, months, and it even blows my mind when we're sitting here talking about it now. He's just, such a all-around great human being, full of
Yeah.
love and happiness, and it
Yeah.
was, very, very special. And
It's
I
it's
thank you,
magic.
so much for bringing that to me, um, making me and from then, I can't give you enough praise, like, I don't even I can't even tell people how fabulous you are for intuitive readings and for the spiritual side, and everything you say is so right on.
Oh, well,
It's
thank you.
unbelievable, and this that one episode was the breakthrough for me to
Mhm.
just continue to be a part of this, with
Yeah.
you leading me and guiding me and bringing these people to me, and just magnificent. Everything
Yeah.
magnificent.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, though, kind of like the story we shared a few weeks ago, where the woman's dad came through and she hadn't heard from him. It's like then it opened the door to all these other things that she needed to hear as she moved through. And I mean, since then you've lost your dad and he's been able to connect and different
Yeah.
things come through. And I feel like, I can't understand how it is all orchestrated. I don't understand the bigger thing happening, but it's like these people know. They know it's time for you to hear this. They know it's time for this door, this veil to be removed so that you can start to see that there's more going on here. I mean, that's kind of how it was for me when I started with this because I was profoundly, I was about to lose my mother and I didn't know, but spirit was priming me the whole time the year or two before to be like, okay, you're going to need to get ready for this so that you can, I don't know, stay in touch, believe, not feel so alone and desolate. I can't explain all the ways, but like,
All of
this
the
whole
above,
thing with the
right?
sunflowers and the busting into the reading and then knowing enough to stand behind me so I don't ruin the whole thing, and, like, I just yeah, I'm in awe. It's just to me it
Me
is
too.
unreasonable magic. We cannot explain all these things away, and, um, yeah, it like that particular story with Tim and he's come through a little bit for you in readings since
Yes.
then, But that particular story is so, meaningful to me and has helped me a lot to just trust myself, which is compelling too. So, for those of you who are out there who might
Love
be
it.
working on your intuitive side or the things that come up, like, we all need to trust a whole lot more than we do. So, I
With your
see that.
heart, right? Trust with your
Yes.
heart. Yes.
Right. Yes. And I will tell you this too, since you're speaking about this heart thing, because that really touches me too. When I first these things started happening, and it was New Year's Day. I actually had a session with an energy healer on New Year's Day in 2018, who was profoundly talented. She did a lot of her own healing through plant medicine, which would definitely fall into
Oh,
things that your space would touch. And she said to me, Spirit says to me, "You're so disconnected from your heart, you don't even know what's in there. And you have to heal that so that you can understand more." And I was like, "I am? Like, I don't
wow.
know. I don't know." And that was the year my mom died that December. So it was like kind of the kickoff to that year. But I can still remember hearing that for some reason, it really made me just put my hands on my heart a lot. It made me just kind of like wanna like center myself there.
Mhm.
And even now when I'm teaching yoga, I do a lot of like focus on pulling the breath to your heart. And that sounds kind of weird to say, but it does. It's like I'm like, let your heart lift your hands, let your heart lift your body and all of that because it's so essential. That is where I connect for my readings though, is in my heart. It's not in my brain, it's in my heart. And in human
Mhm.
design, we look at that, the chart from the neck up has no motors in it. There's no energy there. It's just stuff we take in and we filter. But there's nothing up there that's like concretized. There's no like energy of creation there. So we always are like, bring it back to the body, bring it back to the body. So again, bringing everything back to the body and the way that
Mhm.
all these things connect, it's quite fascinating. So
Very
yeah,
fascinating. Well,
yeah.
thank you.
Well, no, thank you. Thank you for being brave to share these things, and thank you for your passion in studying these topics that I think are so relevant and on point. As I was saying to Trisha before the session, because I know we have a lot in common in our charts. I'm like, Jupiter just crossed your ascendant. You're starting a whole 12-year cycle, and then you're having your second Saturn return. And there's just a lot happening for you that's kind of launching you into a new phase of life. And so I feel so aligned to say that I hope that this is what you continue to study and do because it's such a passion for you. And I think it's so useful to other people that there are probably people out there like me who are disconnected from their heart who need to get reconnected so we can all heal and balance. And so,
Amen.
yes. Well, I thank you so much for being here, and I thank you all for listening. And please share, like this episode. You can pass it on to a friend if they might need to hear a little bit of magic today. And I would also say, please, if you can leave a rating, because I'm trying to, get found on the podcast circles. For next week, we're going to have another story where a spirit loved one busted into a reading before its time. This one is different in nature, and I think it will touch you very deeply. So please tune in next time for that story. But again, Trisha, thank you. Have a beautiful rest
Thank
of
you,
your day,
Christy.
and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.